Thank you very much for joining. This is our first take at a webinar from DrayNow. We are really doing this to try to get our scope out there and our point of view and how we're thinking about things, what we're seeing in the industry, and keeping everyone in the loop of what we're seeing and what's going on. And first of all, welcome to our very first hosted webinar. Very excited to talk about pricing specifically here, both in the industry and DrayNow specifically. We have about 30 minutes set aside, of which I'll try to allow 10 minutes or so for questions at the end, but you should absolutely feel free to chime in with questions in the comment section as we're going along, and we can jump into them if they're relevant, or we can come back to them at the end. My name is Paul, and I've been with DrayNow a little under 2 years, which brings my total transportation experience up to, just under 2 years. So DrayNow is my entirety of experience. But at DrayNow, we're really seeking to inject fresh thinking and ideas into the industry that at times can feel stuck in the mud. By blending fresh and naive at times, faces like me with some of our industry stalwarts, both customers and internally, we really think that we're becoming a force in the industry for innovative thinking. And obviously, we could take more than a few minutes talking about pricing, but I will seek to make this short, sweet, get your thoughts going, and we can have more one-on-one discussions afterwards. I think out of all of our attendees here, I've probably had one-on-one discussions with everyone at this point, and really we're still learning, and we want to learn from you and would love to keep these conversations going as frequently as we possibly can. And not to belabor the point of intermodal pricing, but generally speaking, DrayNow was in part formed to disrupt the static flow of pricing in the drayage industry. We're seeking to break the chain of year-old tariff sheets, give a true sense of what something should cost, and take into account market factors that can fluctuate on a day-in, day-out basis. We believe that, at times we're going to take it on the chin as we seek to propel this industry forward. We're fighting sometimes stagnant behavior and the quote unquote way of doing business in order to move the intermodal industry forward. We do it for the truck driver. We do it for the small carriers. We do it for you, the customers. And honestly, we do it sometimes for larger environmental reasons that go far beyond the idea of us just making a buck here. What the intermodal industry is missing and what we find is missing is a dynamic marketplace where users will be given pricing recommendations based on things like market factors, like appointment time, day, market capacity, even weather events like snowstorms. So just for instance, 90% of our loads are requested by a carrier in under 15 minutes. Some other loads may sit for a bit longer due to a number of other factors. But really, at that point, if your freight's sitting, we encourage you to truly play the marketplace because it's speaking at that moment, and adjust the price to help get a better sense of what the real current market rate is. Oh, first question popped up. Very exciting. Not on the first DrayNow webinar, and our very first question. So you're a history maker, whoever wrote that in. Basically asking, what is our relationship with carriers? And I think this is a good time to answer what our relationship is with carriers. So all of our carriers on our platform are small owner-operators. They have their own authority, their own insurances. The average truck fleet that we have is about 1.2 trucks. So we are really dealing with a carrier who is also the driver of their company. When we are in Chicago and you're posting a load, you're hitting hundreds and hundreds of different carriers and really getting a true representation of what the market cost is. I read some this morning that 95% of all trucks belong to carriers under 5 trucks. So the large part of the lion's share of carriers in our industry are small owner operators. And drayage and intermodal specifically have never really tapped into that market. And that's really where we're trying to bring former OTR regional drivers into the mix here and create some dynamic pricing because of that. Getting back to the regularly scheduled programming, I guess. We also want to ensure that we meet the industry where it currently is. Bid season is not going away anytime soon, and it's still built on a static pricing model for a given term length, and we're happy to participate, price, and execute on contractual freight at a locked-in rate. We currently handle drop accounts, live load and unload, accounts. We do crosstown business at established rates to give you the security you need. One of the exciting things that I'm also pursuing is the idea that we can go into this a little bit differently. Maybe we have a cap of a rate for an extended amount of time, but we work to play the marketplace for you on any given day and share those savings with you. So maybe your $600 is your cap on a load, but if we know we can get it moved at $550 one day or $500 for another day, we think we should share in that wealth there. And love to talk more about how we can have a dynamic bid where there is a cap, but we can still play that marketplace on our carrier side on a day in, day out basis. In addition to who our carriers are, we are much more than just a flexible capacity tool for both spot and consistent drayage. We're truly a neutral marketplace. We connect customers across the industry, and we identify opportunities for street turns and other equipment sharing efficiencies without really disclosing any proprietary information. We have daily box availability alerts, and we can give you the insight you need to take advantage of these consistent opportunities to save the price of a round trip cost. Question just came in about street turns here. So the question is the customer doing any grunt work during the process of finding street turns? So right now, what I just shared, those daily box availability alerts, those are going to come out to you and showcase where we have boxes on the street for 24 to 48 hours out from when we send it. And that gives you insight into where you could potentially match up, a pickup that matches our box type and location. And we can talk about what the rate would need to be to get that moved, and we'll confirm with the carrier that they can stay on that. And that's really as much grunt work as that we're able to do right now. Where we're going to hopefully take this and where we are taking it is allowing our technology to find a lot of these automatically and taking a lot of the burden away from that phone call or the email, which is at this point the inquiry that starts out if we can match up a potential pickup with a delivery that we already have on the street. And our philosophy in regards to that question is really to share those monetary gains across the entire ecosystem. An interesting stat that I turn to quite often is that just in domestic intermodal alone, about 2 billion miles per year are driven empty. That's a crazy amount of miles. That amounts to about $5 billion that are spent on empty miles. Through our technology, which is all proprietary, built in-house, and through our algorithms that are matching and are working to automatically match, we're going to aim to attack that inefficiency and drive waste to zero. Quick on the keyboard here. Someone asking about empty miles. Aren't empty miles going to be inevitable? That's a great question. I mean, there's certain lanes, there's certain markets that'll surely lead to empty miles. There are market inequalities, heavier inbound, heavier outbound markets that will lead to empty miles. But what we can for sure say is that our customers oftentimes only have access, or maybe they see it as a more unequitable market or an unequitable city, or higher inbound, outbound on certain markets because they're looking really at the freight that they only have access to. Well, what we do is when we compile a customer in Rochester or a customer in Florida or a customer in Kansas City, we seek to, with anonymity, push these customers together so that customer A is outbound to a random city that typically doesn't have inbound to them, might have something from another customer, and we'll share those efficiencies back in the market. And just because the box on a trucker's back is a rail box doesn't mean that it can't be used for regional transportation. So based on a lot of customer feedback, later this year, we're going to seek to match up boxes when possible that go beyond just intermodal freight. It's kind of our philosophy at that point in regards to this is why not take, let's say, an inbound to Chicago that's delivering into Grand Rapids, and then when you're on the way back with that empty, you can't find a rail street turn, why not pick out a regional load in Michigan City that's unloading in Chicago and then in-gate the empty after that? Our number one goal here is to create efficiency, and I think it should be the number one goal of the industry. And in our world, there are gaps that exist, and there's proving to be quite a bit that we're hoping to fill. Now, by having a flexible marketplace, we can do far more than contractual and spot freight. We can handle high touch and or high volume project work as well. Unbeknownst to probably a lot of the people on this call, we have successfully ramped up a lane from 0 to 20 moves a day in just that first day in multiple markets due to really the nature of our team. We take a full-on operations approach, but we do have a project management team here that really seeks to counter any potential issues before they happen and react when they do. We understand that technology needs to play a big role in the future of intermodal, but we also understand that it's trucking, it's still freight, and the boxes are still rail owned, and issues will occur. We can quote project-based business that ranges from Christmas tree deliveries for a 1 month spurt to a high volume Amazon Prime surrounding inbound to multi-stop driver assist deliveries directly to a store dock. Question coming in about our spot freight and our levels of success and how we really see that working. So we have a lot of freight that comes on between kind of the 24 to 48 hour marker. I would say 48 hours is probably our sweet spot in terms of really where our carrier base tends to book up their day. And our success with spot freight being, let's say, call it 24 hours ahead of time or same day freight is really incumbent on our customers. It is a pricing decision. If it is priced right, it will move. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts around it. We have some proprietary technology that we'll get into here in a few minutes to help you price that out. But really, our success rate is very high because we can give the feedback from hundreds of different carriers in order to give that feedback right away in terms of what a price should be. So every Monday morning, we actually will give out a report card on the success of your previous week's freight. That'll include spot freight and last minute work and talk about how well we're doing. And if there's ever more data you want to see around your freight, whether that be spot versus contract or project based, we can break it down and cut it in a number of different ways to give you the insights that you need. Now, we can't talk about pricing right now without talking about the virus that's impacting all of our lives while it's just in its infancy across the states. A wise woman, who may have been my mom, told me recently that if you hear someone giving you precise knowledge of what is or will happen regarding this virus and its impacts, then you can pretty much assume that they will be wrong, as no one really knows exactly how this will take its course. Now, what DrayNow and intermodal as a whole can be sure of, though, is that the price fluctuations of something moving OTR will be wide, oftentimes saving a good chunk of money, while intermodal will create more stability. Having a pricing strategy that is mixed modes is definitely advisable to be able to take advantage of the ups and downs of the market. What DrayNow can provide is the scale opportunity, though, to ramp up your intermodal mix as needed. I alluded to how we can ramp up 0 to 20 moves in a day, but really what this can do is gives you the pricing security you need to ensure a stable revenue flow. Now, one feature new to DrayNow is our True Price tool, which is the most reflective pricing tool in the intermodal industry of what is actually happening right now in the market. It gives the user a chance to plug in their details and receive pricing feedback instantaneously. Now, I was going to dive in here live, but we recorded a video to make sure we wouldn't run into any issues to kind of show how day and time and distance can play a factor in how we price this out. And just know the video we're about to show, we created it about 30 minutes ago. It's with real information of what's happening. So I'll go in here and we'll talk through it as we go into here. So with the scenario being, let's say a customer has a fall off with their traditional carrier and they need the capacity for first thing tomorrow morning. Sheboygan load in Wisconsin that they traditionally get covered at $600, but now we have a hot load. It's last minute. We need to ensure we get coverage and at the most affordable rate that we can, knowing that we're probably going to have to pay more than $600. So you can come in our tool. This is when you're entering an order. Now for spot and last minute freight, this is where we definitely want you to come in here and enter the order so you can take advantage of the True Price tool. You select Chicago, that you have this delivery coming from BNSF Cicero for this example, where you can choose really any ramp you want at this point. Enter all the details that you need for the particular order so you'd be good to go. Now we want to determine where we're actually shipping or where this delivery is going to actually be going to. So we heading out to the great DrayNow distribution plant out here in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. We can enter all of those details. The appointment start time and end time are going to be very specifically needed here to determine what that true price really is. So let's say we have that open window 8 to 9. Now, where is this empty going back to? We can say, all right, it's going back to Cicero. So we got our full order here at this point. All the details that we need. Maybe it's going back to a different ramp. You can select that as well. And at this point, you can go in here into the pricing aspect of things. So $600, let's say that's our normal price. We can check that, and we can see that we're going to get that instantaneous feedback. 600 is what we normally pay, and now DrayNow here is going to say that's actually below adequate for a last-minute move. Now, if we change it to like $800, let's say, maybe that becomes competitive. And if we made it even higher, maybe we just want to guarantee it goes very quickly, $995. Ultimately, that's very competitive. And so really what this tool is doing is what the below adequate, what competitive, what very competitive, what that relates to is that's essentially a confidence score that we have based on true market conditions that a carrier will accept that load, at the given time, specifications, whether that be a last minute instance or not, to be able to do it here. So in just minutes, you would see that load get taken at $995 and go and handle this last minute fall off that you had. So a question coming in about this is, what if I don't have the budget for the tool's recommendation? So if our tool's recommendation is $995 and we're saying that's where you need to be super competitive in the market, then we will probably, but you only have $850 on the load. Now at that point, we're not going to tell you that $995 is what you have to put it on at. You can put it on at $850 and you can play the market. Oftentimes the market speaks maybe a little bit differently. Maybe if you're willing to wait, a couple hours and see if the right carrier can make it work, or they had a fall off from something else and they're looking for last minute business, we highly encourage you to play the marketplace, whether, with that particular load. And we'll give you the feedback that you need to make sure you're successful doing that. Now, all of this being said, it's clear that we are on a journey. For lack of a better metaphor here, we are driving the train, but we're looking for passengers. We value our customers who can lean in, believe in the need for progression, and are going to be steadfast in our mission to build innovative technology that ultimately will improve the lives of everyone involved in moving freight across the country, and especially our carriers, drivers, and our brokers, IMCs, customers who we work with. So that was my last statement here. I think we've also had some questions flowing in that I want to get to here. One of which is, while we're pulling more of these up, so DrayNow is willing to lock in prices for a longer period of time. Yes, so 100% we are. To reiterate what I said earlier, we will participate in bids. We will look at contractual freight, term lengths, and we will price it out alongside other carriers that you normally would be able to go with. So please let me know if you have those bids that you'd like to dive into. I would happily get there. Question just popped in. So how does our true price differ from a guaranteed buy rate in intermodal? So that's a good question. Buy rate in soft modal. I think I said that. So soft modal, as we're all aware, can often include the headaches involved of seeing a price listed from a carrier. And when you call that carrier, that rate sometimes isn't necessarily the rate that they currently offer. I've dealt with customers a number of times who have called and been very surprised that our rates, which are in soft modal, are actually our rates that we would potentially offer on a long-term bid. Maybe not on the last second thing, but are definitely in our range. Whereas other carriers who have put in a tariff sheet from previous years are going to give you a quote that wastes the last 5 minutes of your day calling and seeing a price that's very different. So I'm not entirely familiar with what the guaranteed buy rate is in soft modal. I actually don't have too much experience seeing that. But what the true price does, it allows you to see a marketplace dynamic. You might go into the true price and see, okay, this is $600 today, and maybe tomorrow it's going to be $700. But soft modal will always give you that standard pricing element, and we're going to be pushing the industry forward into learning the ins and outs of if given day, given time, if we went back to that example, and we're not going to do that now, but we changed the appointment time to later in the afternoon, we would see a different price determination just based on what the appointment time is. And that's based on real carrier data, what's happening in the market, who's actually participating, and what loads they're on. So it really leans into our current capacity. So another question here. What do you think of the fuel prices dropping and how that can affect intermodal? So yeah, past weekend, not so great for the stock market from a Russia-China perspective, or I guess Russia-Saudi Arabia perspective on the oil side, and rates dropping for sure. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a rush to OTR and moving things on the truck. Ultimately, though, consistency matters here, and giving a shared common experience to our customers and giving them an experience they'll enjoy. What intermodal is seeking to always take advantage of is the customers that can plan, have some lead time, and take advantage of the fact that overall the stability of intermodal is going to be where your pockets know what's coming and take advantage of the stability involved there. And like I said, a mixed mode strategy is what we always advise. But when it comes to intermodal, we think that we should be a player for your intermodal strategy because we think we do it more efficiently, and we're going to add value there as well. Question coming in from one of my most funny customers down in Florida. I won't give any names away, but he's a real treat. Do you have a bidding process built onto the pricing model? So bidding process being from our carriers here in terms of our carriers being able to bid on pricing. We do not have that right now at the moment. Informally, I would say we do. We have probably a core set of carriers who, upon seeing a new lane or a last minute spot move, will instantaneously pretty much always call in and give their feedback on that load if it's not requested right away. So if that Sheboygan load was put on at 700 and we're getting the feedback that, hey, I'll take it at 750, we're going to wait and just see if that market, if our carrier base takes care of the $700 price. But if we get a few calls about 750, 775, really at that point, we're getting into a bidding type process where then we can relay the information of these small, true owner operators back to our customer and let them know what we're hearing. And if we can raise the price or need to raise the price at that point, we can do that there. Going forward, technology, absolutely, it'll be a part of our platform, and we'll have carriers be a part of that. All of those types of tech releases and things along those lines will be things that we'll make sure you're aware of when we get there, as ultimately we're making to add some value to your day. Cool. Let me just see this other question here coming in. Got it. So here the question is, I can give a drayman a load and it's covered. How do I know the load posted will be covered so I don't need to worry about it? That's a great question. So we learned, well, I guess I learned a new word in the last year, and that was agita. I think we cause a lot of that by having a very transparent system, showing when a load is in our open status versus tendered or pending. And really what that does is it's causing, potentially you to say, oh, why is it not taken? Really what we're doing is we're showing what's truly happening in the drayage world. The drayage world might tender 10 loads for next week, Wednesday, and they're not going to really figure out what they're doing until next week, Tuesday night, before the loads need to move. What we're trying to do is showcase what's really happening in the market. But what we're very confident in is not only if a load is posted at a rate that we've locked in with you, we're moving it. One of the favorite symbols of our customers is a little trophy on our platform. A trophy means we've locked in that rate with you, and we're willing to take the gamble on it for whatever tenure and time period we need to ensure that that load is going to get covered. We're still going to put it there and open for you to showcase just how the market's reacting to it, but you'll have full transparency and insight into what's actually happening. Same can be said if we ever have a load where we had a driver on it and the move is tomorrow morning to Sheboygan at $600, and tonight that driver falls off because his truck broke down or what have you. Again, trucking, something might happen. we will move it at all costs at that point. You'll still see it at $600, but if we have to move it at that 800, which is competitive, or 995 to make it very competitive, to talk in the true price tool terms, we'll do whatever we need to take to get that moved at that point to make sure that your load gets where it needs to get to on time. So looks like we have time for maybe one or two more questions if you want to put one in here. One coming in now is how we're expecting spot freight to behave in the next couple of months. It's a good question. Again, I'm going to take the advice of my mom and say that any sort of gospel here is proving to be risky. But I can imagine that the spot market will be pretty insane in the next couple of months. I think there's going to be a lot of going back and forth to what move or what mode makes the most sense. Traditionally, I think OTR capacity might swell. I think it might then become a capacity crunch at some point, and things are going to have to be moving on the rail to make it easier. And I think our capacity is there to scoop that up. The best part about our platform is our carrier base is really just, they're going to follow the freight. So if it's slow for them, they have avenues to make that work. But if it's busy for them, they love what they're doing when it comes to DrayNow. And so we can expect that they would follow us right in there and manage any sort of fluctuations at a high perspective to handle any spot freight increases. That's a great question. I don't see another question, and we're running out of time here anyways. Can't believe we made it a full 30 minutes. My marketing team will for sure be giving me a pat on the back here. But I'm always available, literally anytime. If you want to talk about this some more, if you want to dive into specific bids or anything, if you want to talk about the industry, if you think you could offer me some advice on what you're thinking about it, we're ultimately going to become a better company when we listen to what's happening. And we do that now, and we want to do it more. So please give me a call, shoot me an email, and we'll be excited to add that to our trajectory. And stay tuned for webinar number 2. I'm not sure if I'll be invited back here, but someone will, and we're very excited to handle that. Appreciate everybody, and hope you have a great day. Please be well, stay safe, wash your hands, and have a good end of your week.